Hi, my name is Miriam Gennari, and I'm a member and producer at Arlington Independent Media. Well, I first learned about Arlington Independent Media when I was a guest on a show. A friend of mine, Don Rouse, invited me to come for what his show is called the Green Hour, and I spoke because I was a former candidate for the school board. Well, when I came to Arlington Independent Media, took a tour, I found it really fascinating. I thought it was great that Don was able to have this forum to talk about sustainability and green initiatives. And during the show, the way that it works, there are volunteers from other shows that work on your shows and vice versa. And one of the sound people for the show that I was visiting approached me and said that the Arlington Weekly News could really use another correspondent and invited me to come and audition and talk to the producer, Don Hammond. And that's how I got involved with the Arlington Weekly News. Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Sustainable Scoop. I'm Miriam Gennari. In this season of giving, when we're always trying to think about how to thank people, we have a unique opportunity to thank our veterans. And one person that is doing a wonderful job thanking our veterans by considering the difficulties and the struggles that they face coming back from war is Dr. Scott Gordon. And Scott, congratulations on the opening of the 296 Project Studio in Crystal City.
Yeah.
Well, I started with the Arlington Weekly News about 3.5 years ago, and I was just doing interviews as they became available, and the producer would send me notes and see if I wanted to speak to some local guest or politician. There was a point where we decided that I would focus my attention on sustainability. So I started my own segment called The Sustainable Scoop with great support from the news team. And I have had the opportunity to interview some of the most interesting, innovative, and also caring people, especially as it relates to the environment, that exist here in Arlington. So that's been really exciting. So of all the interviews, probably the most exciting was when I was invited to do the third-party candidate interviews prior to the election of President Obama, and that's kind of a big deal. To make it onto the networks, a lot of these candidates have to be invited or have to claim a certain percentage of the vote. So even if they're getting 15% in an election, they don't qualify for a presidential debate. So I went to Bus Boys and Poets along with volunteers from AIM, sound, camera, lights, right there with the big boys, CNN, everyone covering this, Al Jazeera to my right. And I had an opportunity to not only film those debates, but do individual interviews. And one interview I did was with Ralph Nader. And that was such an honor. And to see a lot of these individuals who you think are icons, or you know, they wouldn't be as interested in speaking to a lowly independent media station. They were actually very welcoming and refreshed to know that we were there, and gave us a lot of time. And yeah, I had a great interview with Ralph Nader. He's a wonderful man. I kind of slipped into the environmental movement. I didn't realize I was a vicious consumer or a waster. It wasn't until I had children and I started to remind them about things like shutting off lights and conserving, maybe more from a financial concern. But then I started to broaden my scope, so to speak, and noted that the schools were not necessarily teaching what I was trying to teach at home. And that I remember a while back, an official told me that the reason they couldn't shut off the lights in the schools was because eventually they were going to have motion sensor lighting. And I thought, I'm not getting motion sensor lighting anytime soon. So you're kind of, you know, taking apart my argument with the kids. So I got involved in the environmental movement that way. My claim to fame is getting the styrofoam trays out of Arlington Public Schools, which really started a ball rolling in the direction of sustainability. I continued to focus on polystyrene or styrofoam, the bulk kind, because there is no real great recycling mechanism, and yet it's a petroleum-based product. It actually can be recycled, and you know, in this area, with the affluence and the purchasing power, we could be the area to solve that problem. So I've pursued that and recently produced a show that I'm quite proud of called Styrofoam Trash or Treasure. And you know, the best part about the show was that it took a lot to produce. It was about a 10-month process, but when it was finished and it aired on the station, it aired for 3 months. And during that time, 1, 2, 5 people, I think, became zealots. And they went out and passionately started to share my views. And I get phone calls all the time saying, "We did it!" And I didn't even know I was on their team, you know? So that's really great. The thing that I think is wonderful, Trash or Treasure kind of put a spotlight on the problem. But I'll use an email I got recently from a woman who said, "Great news, Miriam. We're no longer using styrofoam in my school system." And to be quite honest, I don't even know where this woman is from. So it was probably something she saw online when she contacted Styrofoam Mom to tell me about that. But she said, now what? I mean, I feel like I should provide some kind of resource. And the wonderful thing is that at AIM, I was able to produce a short movie called Styro Man. And Styro Man is a semi-animated drawing movie that tells you a little bit about why you shouldn't use polystyrene, at least single-use polystyrene, and the type that people are often served food or drink in. That's the real problem. That's something we need to deal with right away. So now I can get back in touch with this woman and say, you know, I've got a video here. It's available to you. You can send it to your school system, and they can show it to all the students, and the students can show it to their parents. And so one little project that I worked on here at AIM is going to make a national impact. That's powerful. And that makes every hour that I spend at AIM volunteering for somebody else's show, maybe I get to have this impact, they get to have another impact. I have to share that I also had the opportunity on working on another person's show called Beyond the Lyrics, where I interviewed Dionne Warwick. I couldn't believe it. She called into the show, and I had an opportunity to speak to her and listen to her smooth voice. And where else would anyone get an opportunity like that than a station like this? Certainly not someone like myself, who has no professional background in television or film or any type of broadcasting. You know, I just want to thank the staff and the team at Arlington Independent Media, and certainly the Arlington Weekly News, for giving me the opportunity to share my voice about what I feel is important, and also to contribute to the different projects that I know are important that other people have produced here.